Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm Juliet Fajardo, and this is UX and Tame. And as we know, and if you were here last week, July is all about landing that first job. I think when people is switching careers or like coming new into tech, this is one of the biggest questions that everybody has is like, how do I do it? How do I land my first job? So last week we have three UX designers that they told us their story. Today I'm bringing an expert because it's nice to know the different aspects and how you can be better and how you can impress companies and how can you do it better? So instead of me like just bumbling around this, let's bring in our guest speaker. Hi Anna, how are you?
Hi, nice to see you today. Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, nice to have you here. I'm super excited. I think the perspectives that we've been having lately is been more around job seekers, but it's nice to have like someone who can see from the outside and as a career coach. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Who is Anna?
Sure. So I'm Anna. I'm originally from New York, and now I live in California. I started working in tech and didn't know how to get my first job. So I ended up freelancing for 2 years, and that gave me the experience to land my first job. That's absolutely not necessary, and that's why I'm now helping people to do this quicker. So I ended up working in tech for about 10 years, and then I always wanted to start my own business. And I decided that I wanted to start helping career changers land their first job through one-on-one personalized coaching and educational training. So basically, last year I founded a company called Second Careers, where I use coaching and educational resources and one-on-one support to really accelerate the process of moving towards your first career in tech.
Well, I love it. Yeah, like you in the whole journey, so you know what has been happening in the past. So that's great. Again, everybody knows if you have been here before that I love this question. Like, can you tell me a fun fact or unique fact about you?
I'm Russian. So my family is from Russia, and we immigrated in 1990 to Brooklyn, New York. So I'm very Brooklyn. So if you meet other people from Brooklyn, they kind of sound like me, especially in South Brooklyn, where a lot of immigrants are. So some people don't know that about me.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah, like I didn't know this, so love it. I know that you told us a little bit how did you ended up being a tech career coach, but why don't you tell us like what was that something really that inspired you and that make you become a tech career coach, and how was that journey involved over the past? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
So when I started working in tech, it was completely by accident. I basically built a website for my father because he runs a dental practice. He's a dentist. And these companies were calling him saying like, you need to pay us $10,000 to build the website. And he's like, that's ridiculous. I'm sure you can do it. So that was many years ago. And I did. And back then, WordPress was really popular. Now Squarespace and Wix is like more the go-to. So anyways, a few years later, now I'm doing project management in digital projects in like advertising companies, right? And I realized, okay, there's a big space of like helping streamline the process of creating digital projects. And around that time of like the mid 2010s, there's a lot of new roles around product management. And I really wanted to transition from project to products because you get to work with more interesting companies. You get to work on like the experience itself. A lot of product management and UX intersect. In fact, I did a lot of the UX myself when I was in companies where they didn't have UX designers. Most small startups will not. That's just the fact. So I was like, well, I'll just do both. But the transition from project management to product was pretty rough. And it took me years just to figure out like, how do I talk about it? How do I gain confidence? How do I reframe a lot of my project experience into like product experiences? So how I got a job in product finally was through meeting someone completely randomly, a friend of a friend who worked in a startup and didn't even know it was a startup. Super weird. But he was like, I work with engineers and we have a CTO. And I'm like, oh, it's a startup. Can I help you guys? So I landed myself an interview and I freelanced with them, and then I got a full-time job there for a year. So that was my first product role where I really I started to transition into creating product experiences. But how does this relate to, in general, the transition into tech? So like a lot of people aren't used to the industry itself. And I was like, well, a lot of people are making changes in their lives, especially around the time of COVID. Like, you spend a lot of time at home, you start thinking about things. Maybe you can't work what you used to do, like musicians and bartenders couldn't work for a year. So they had to, find other ways to make it a living. A lot of people went to boot camps. Tech, was becoming more popular. There was more education around it. People literally went to boot camps because they saw a video on TikTok, so a lot of people transitioning. And I realized, okay, I have years of experience figuring this out, figuring out how to network, figuring out how to say, do what. So I thought, well, why don't I help accelerate this process for people by sharing my knowledge and expertise and learning from others as well, and becoming an expert in essentially the job search process.
Love it. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of career switches, maybe because it came at the same time during COVID, this is something that happened to all of us. Okay. So before we jump into the next question, I know that I mentioned you as a tech career coach, but what involves, or what roles involve into that
Yeah.
role?
So basically, I work with people that mainly go into any technical or non-technical roles within the tech industry. So like a startup or any kind of company like Google, they'll still have HR, they'll still have recruiting, they'll still have legal. But I don't really work as much with those kind of people, because there it tends to be a little smoother, because you're not transferring your skills. You just want to be, a lawyer in a tech company. But a lot of people that transfer their skills from like teaching, medicine, construction, you name it, probably people have done it, like dental assistants. They take boot camps and they want to transfer into new roles. So basically, I work with a lot of software developers, designers, data analysts, and UXR. But the two main ones are designers and software developers, because the industry has created the best transition paths for those roles.
Makes sense. Okay. Now that we know who kind of is your niche target, what do you think that are the key qualities or skills for these roles, or for these people coming into tech to succeed?
Yeah. So a lot of times people come in and they feel really shy because they feel like they don't know as much as others. And that's totally normal. I mean, I felt shy about my knowledge for like 5 years, right? You could be an expert for 30 years and still feel shy. It really depends on how you present yourself and skills you learn to share your knowledge, right? So I would say the key elements would be learning to present your knowledge and telling your career story. Basically, people want to get to know you. If you're not sharing who you are, they have no way to get to know you. So you got to learn how to share your story and not feel like it's too much information. But you also want to share it in like a good framing, a good reference, right? You don't want to go in with like 100 details right at the same time, because then it's a lot of information. People can't figure that out. So you got to have a clear story and share that story. And the more you share it, the more people resonate it with it and want to help you.
I love this, because I feel like a lot of us that we're into that career switch, that they are at the moment, we have so much good things to tell. Yes, I feel like we have back experience, like a lot of experience in something, and there is so much relatable into where we're going now. And I feel as though sometimes finding that, like you were saying, that balance between not too much and enough, but how to connect the two things. Yes. Perfect. I think something that a lot of people is scared And it's been happening into the last 3 years, and people who's coming into tech and it's like, yeah, tech looks like such a great space to work, and then big news of laid off and letting people go, and it's like how me newly into tech, newly into as a designer can really stand up to people that has been laid off. So what do we do? How do we show our strengths, and how do we keep moving with our talents to get to that career or get to the job that we want?
Absolutely. So the most important thing that everyone has to remember is you are not competing with people who are laid off. Why? Because they have years of experience. You're simply not competing for the same jobs. So it's really important to understand that, so you don't start to build a story that essentially blocks you from applying or even job searching. Like, if you want to find reasons not to switch into tech, great. That's a great reason. Like, I can find reasons not to do anything, right? So it's really up to you to figure out reasons to take the initiative to do the job search, right? So you don't want to find reasons to not do it. The second thing is layoffs are a common way for big tech companies to restructure. This is common and happens all the time. So if you're new to tech, this knowledge will be new to you and it will sound foreign, because if you're a teacher, schools are not going to restructure. They're lacking enough teachers. They're always going to want more employees. But businesses in tech have to stay on top of trends and move with the growth of whatever technology is happening. And technology changes and they have to pivot. And whether it's a company big or small, they're always going to be pivoting every couple of years or maybe every 6 months even. So layoffs are a natural kind of progression of a business. What you want to do is find companies that are careful in their hiring. So they're obviously hiring, but they're not unnecessarily staffing up and then releasing all that staff a year later. So if you know that a company has a history of multiple layoffs over several years, don't apply there. Maybe that's not a good fit, you know? But there's lots of companies that have more stable hiring practices, which are more sustainable. So how you find out is you ask questions like, did you bring on a couple, how many people did you bring on to this department? Like, were there layoffs recently? That's all normal questions to ask, because that's part of business. So yeah, don't look for reasons not to switch, because that's not going to help you, because there are jobs. It's your job to figure out how to get yourself in a conversation with people for those jobs.
I love that because, again, me as a junior designer, I'm not competing with someone that has been in the market 2, 3, 5 years. We are going to be in different spaces. One of the things that really interests me when I was switching or was looking into a new career, new space, it was, I want something that it changed, that evolves, that it allows me to grow and learn and keep me moving into that space. But at the same time, thinking in tech, and like you were mentioning, this is something that it changed a lot. And now if we keep talking about AI and how AI could affect some of the jobs, how do I stay relevant and how do I stay like on top of everything that is happening to make sure that I can find the space that is right for me?
So my answer to that is don't follow all the trends. They're not going to make you more money. You want to learn new skills, go do that on your free time. Have fun. You want to establish relationships with your managers, your coworkers, and other stakeholders. Learning AI is not going to help you establish those relationships. You want to deliver good work. Learning every new thing is not going to help you deliver the next dashboard or user experience or research project, right? So if you want to stay relevant in the industry, you want to be up to date on best practices for whatever you're working, whatever domain you're in. Are you in the fintech industry? Understand dashboards. Follow, leaders that work in competitor companies. If you're in marketing tech, similarly, understand the UIs that are important there, follow other people that work there, talk to them, find out what tools they use. Look at evolving practices around interaction design. Like, that's how you start relevant, based on improving your skills within the domain that you're at, or maybe exploring some new experiments. But like, no one's going to ask you to use AI to like design something tomorrow. In fact, AI is not there at any point to like enhance our jobs right now. If you were a content writer, that would be different. But right now, AI is like not going to design the next dashboard. Most CEOs don't understand how they would even interact with that.
I love it. And I feel like, what about, I know this is more if right now in tech, what about, and this is a question that I get for some junior designers quite a bit of the time, is like, what else should I learn right now? Like I'm not getting interviews, I'm not getting anything, but what else should I put in my portfolio, on my resume that I know?
Okay. Yeah. So what's important to also understand is learning new projects does not equal interviews. If people don't know what to do next, which a lot of career changes simply don't have the information to understand what to do next, it's normal. I did not either. You have to start networking with people in order to see what are other people's portfolios, compare yours, but not in a negative way or to find blocks. You want to compare it to see what level of design they have. You want to understand what level you're at. If you feel like you have 3 projects and they're all personal projects and you've never worked with a company, okay, so you're missing working with a team to create a design together. But you're not missing skills, like those skills come with extra practice, with working with a team, with creating a new type of design. So maybe you've done onboarding experiences, but you've never done a dashboard. So great, you can, try those things. But if you spend your whole time just thinking about new projects, like that's not related to the job search too much, You want to get to a good point so you are proud of your projects and you're proud of your skills, and you can say, I can use Figma really well. I can, use Miro. I can do prototypes. But building projects and ignoring the fact that you're not getting interviews is like, that's not the answer there.
Yeah. And I feel like people just, don't have like a specific goal and try to fill it up with something that they can do like right now. Yeah, totally makes sense. As we were talking at the beginning, and be like myself being like a career switcher, I used to be in retail for a long time, and a lot of career switchers come from so many different spaces, and we always find ourselves is like, how do I tell people that I'm good at this, that maybe I don't have the skills, or that I'm still learning, but I can get there? How do I not make this into, again, finding a lot of excuses not to get into tech and not to land a job? So what advice would you give to people who is like really breaking into the tech industry with not a tech background?
So the first is you want to understand what domains are particularly interesting to you. So if you're a teacher, maybe edtech is a good place to start. You want to think about the software that you have used in whatever space you're at. So in retail, you've used a point of sale system all the time, right? Was it easy to use? Would there be some enhancements you could put in? Like, start working on projects from the spaces that you do know, because you have personal experience using something and being frustrated, or using it and not being able to like do what you need to do. Or maybe it's a great product and you want to add like an additional feature and an enhancement. So if you can think of the softwares that you've already been using and then build small personal projects on top of that, or if it's a team project, you maybe choose a topic that's related to something you deeply understand. basically you're your own user research, you can speak to it really well. And that helps you create confidence without having to think, oh, I didn't put it into development, or I only worked with one other designer, or it's a personal project, right? You want to draw confidence from somewhere. So your personal experience is the first place you can get confidence from.
Love it. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people forget that part. Yes. It's like, oh, I'm starting a new career. Like everything that I have in my past doesn't count, but there is so much good in what you've been learning and what you've been like improving in your skills in different ways. So how you can get from that and kind of build like you were saying, confidence, that's a big one. Something that did I read this? No. Sorry, I lost my question as I was going from something that happened a lot of times is I don't know really what is my true passion and where do I align? Yes, this is a new environment, a new space. How do I find out really what aligns with my true passion and where I should go? Like what techniques do you use with your career? How do you call career peers? No, like your clients, maybe your clients. Yeah. Like what techniques do you use your clients to identify what their passion is and how to get there?
So thank you for that question. Basically, there's different goals people have in their lives. Identifying their passion might not be the most immediate goal. So if your immediate goal is to land a job in 3 to 6 months, it doesn't really matter what your passion is, as long as you absolutely don't hate something and the company pays you well and the values are aligned with you. That's it. And you're willing to like work there for a while and see how it goes. Like, great. How you find what you're passionate about is spending a couple of years trying things out. Like, I didn't know I was passionate about like career coaching years ago. I didn't even know how to get a job like 15 years ago. So you got to try things and really not be afraid to try. And if something doesn't work, like it doesn't feel right, then spend your energy finding something else. Talk with people that are doing something you want to explore. So if you've been doing a lot of UI work and you want to do more UXR work, then go speak to UXR people. Like you got to start building your knowledge by asking others what it's like for them. And then your context grows. And then you can find opportunities to do more of those projects. Maybe in your current role, you want to take on a UXR project or you have a proposal for something new, but you want to start somewhere with a company and then move on from there.
Yes, I feel like a lot of people just think that the passion of these things that you really like are just going to show up by just living. But I feel like in the moment that you start connecting with more people and being curious and asking questions and getting close to like people that is aligned to what you believe and to your goals and to your growth, they're going to start helping you to find those answers too. And that takes time. Yes, I feel like, again, I switched careers 3 years ago into my 40s. So it took me quite a bit to find what was aligned to my wish and my joy.
So if tech is a completely new space for you, it's going to take about a year just to understand, like, how do people do things in tech? It's completely different than other industries. Like, I would not know how to function as a doctor in a hospital right away. Right? No one would if they were never in a hospital. Same thing for tech, just because it doesn't seem very technical and stuff like that. It's still a different industry and there's a different pace of work. There's a different style of communication and there's different stakes. Like being in a hospital, there's higher stakes, And in tech, the stakes are usually lower unless you're working with like a life or death technology. So there's a lot of differences, and that takes a while to get used to. And it took me just 3 years to just like understand the industry. So when I work with clients, I give them a lot of information that they don't need to like figure out. They can just kind of start understanding it just because like I'm available to help them.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Yes. I mean, we are all scared to not do our best job and we want to shine all the time, but that's okay if doesn't happen. I feel like something that is really scary changing careers is, again, the failure. No one is interested in me. No one is looking at my resume. I'm not getting callbacks. So how do you support your clients in overcoming these setbacks and using those experiences as like, let's see how can improve in the future?
Yeah. So again, there's a couple of things to consider. The first thing that I learned when I was transitioning careers is it's not about me. So basically, stop making everything about you. So just like in a romantic breakup, you want to think that you did everything possible and just like it was, I don't know, it didn't work out. But like, it's not only about you. So get out of the bubble that it's, you know, all about like what's happening to me right now. The minute you get out of that bubble, you start realizing that there are other people out there in your shoes. There's also people that are a few steps ahead of you that are willing to help you. And there's also people that are looking for someone like you to help them do something and pay you for it. Your job is to connect the dots and kind of start drawing people into your network with you, into a conversation with you. That's where networking comes in. That's why LinkedIn is one of the biggest network out there. And you can literally message anyone. And if they respond, you can have a conversation. So it's a pretty amazing tool. But it's really important to get out of your head and this box that people create where they think it's all about them.
I love that because I feel like it's just, yeah, definitely so hard to come out and say, okay, what is under my control and what is something that I can really do right now? And yes, I could stay in that state of like, no one is calling me, no one is paying attention, but it's like, do I need to try something else? What else I can do that I haven't done yet? And it could work for me. So I feel like stepping out. I mean, I think that's why it's so great to have like a career coach that can pull you out of that space and give you like
so
a different.
I've had clients that have, come close to offers and then had nothing, and they felt really, uncomfortable about that, and they didn't know what to do next. So I helped them understand that happens. And especially in the market in 2023, that happens more frequently. So that's the ecosystem right now. Some people, cold apply, get one interview and get the job. Some people cold apply, never get interviews, and, not sure what to do next. So there's a lot of luck involved, but if you don't want to do just luck, there's the networking that you can do, which is under your control.
And I love this because it's good for the next question, and it's something that I really enjoy, and I think it's been the most powerful tool in my career switch, and it's been allowed me to land interviews, meet a lot of people, and into the different projects that I have, as I consider passion projects, has been really helpful my network to be where I am today. So what is networking so important, and how can someone start from zero?
So I do want to mention that I was not active on LinkedIn even like last year. I was just around and I used it occasionally, but I was not like a content creator, marketing, talking to people left and right. So everything that I did, I learned through different methods. I actually did business coaching programs, so that helped me get out of my own shell, and that taught me a lot of things, which I'm teaching now. So networking is really important because that helps you create connections with people who can help you. Basically, the framing is help people help you. So you have a goal, you have a need, other people have their own things, right? But what's connecting us as a human race, high level, is that we all want to help each other in some way if we can. And in the professional sense, on LinkedIn specifically, this shows up as referrals, information about the role or their experience, and intros to other people. So when you have conversations, you're essentially creating more context for yourself to understand if this is a good fit, if they can give you a referral, if they can introduce you to someone, or maybe you actually meet someone you have a lot in common with and they become a friend. So basically, networking can go from anywhere like no one responds to creating a best friend. So, and anything in between. So it's really about having an open mind and seeing who is available and who wants to help, and then helping them help you.
I love that. I feel like a lot of people just put networking into a box. Yes, like networking is for me just simply finding a job. And if after networking I'm not finding a job, then it's not working for me. So I feel like they just close so many possibilities that could happen after networking, and can how really empower you to, like you were saying, like, is this the job that I wanted to get? Is this the role that I wanted to get? Do I see myself doing day to day? What is the slang that people is using in tech? Or how should I talk to PMs or whatever? Like, networking have so many ramifications that limited to one use is closing so many possibilities, like powerful ones for like people who is switching to careers, like in tech, for example. Okay, but if you could give us like some top recommendations or top things that someone could do for having effective networking.
Yeah, so I would say ask specific questions. A lot of people tell me they don't know what to ask, and they end up asking very broad questions. The thing is, the better the information, the better the question. So if your question is very broad, so a very typical broad question is, what is your day-to-day like? It is a very broad question because every day is different. And, a better question might be like, what do you accomplish every week? Or what are your role KPIs or goals? What is your team structured like? You basically want to create a list of specific questions that people can actually answer. Because think about it, we live our lives, we have work, relationships, all that stuff. And someone calls you and they're like, oh, hey, what's your day-to-day like? What are you supposed to say? I sleep and I eat? Like, as a designer, you're going to be like, oh, I use Figma. Great. What are you going to do with that information? Is that useful to anyone? No. But their answer is dependent on your question. So study the job descriptions, look at the company websites, and look at their profiles. You want to use all information at your disposal as important prompts to the kind of questions that you ask. If you're not using that information, you're basically showing up as someone who isn't paying attention and is not interested in the conversation. So, of course, you're not going to get the information you're looking for because you're not asking questions that people can answer. So, pay attention to the information around you so you can ask better questions.
Love it. And I feel like another question that people always is thinking about networking, like, okay, I'm having a great conversation with Anna at this moment, and you're giving me great answers, and I feel like maybe how can I make that our single conversation can go to like second conversation, or you referring me to someone? Like, what do I do at the end of the conversation? Like, how do I make it into a next conversation?
Well, the first thing is you want to ask. So if you don't ask, you're not opening the door to something new. So if you want to stay in touch with this person, you can literally say, are you open to keeping in touch on LinkedIn? I'd love to continue the conversation. And they can let you know. Usually people would say, sure, sounds good. If you want to ask for a referral, you could say, based on everything you shared me, I'd really love to explore working at this role. Are you open to a referral? Does this job allow you to refer people? You have to ask, because people can't help you if you're not asking. It's like if you're hungry and you're not asking for food and you can't find the food, people don't know you're hungry. So you got to start asking, but the questions are part of the context of the conversation. What comes off as, rude is when a question is out of context. So out of context is usually the second answer they give you after, you send them a note, hey, let's chat. They reply, sure, happy to connect. And then the next thing you do is hey, can you give me a referral? What's the context there? They just met you. They don't even know who you are, or maybe even your name. Why would you ask that right away? So have a conversation and use the conversation to create context for your questions, like keeping in touch, referrals, intros, stuff like that.
I feel people forget that this is like any other relationship that you build. This is when you're building a friendship, you don't jump right away to let's go for a trip of 6 months. I don't even know you. What I would like to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just building that conversation. I think being genuine and being honest about what you hear, and I feel like a lot of people is down for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I get it. Then my questions this time are really long. So okay. The tech field can be competitive and sometimes overwhelming. How do you coach individuals to stay resilient and focused when facing challenges during their career transitions? And I know that we talked about this at 2 questions ago, but how do I stay resilient and stay here and kind of putting my eyes on the goal?
Sure. So I always remind clients that their job is to create as many opportunities as possible. To create opportunities, which could mean a referral, a interview, a conversation, things like that. They have to create conversations. So first of all, cold applying is useful, but cold applying without networking basically decreases the opportunities, because let's say you cold apply to a company called Zoomies, and then you contact 10 designers at Zoomies and 2 reply, and they end up being really helpful and sharing what they experienced then oh, this would be a great company. Where the same thing happens, but they share kind of not so positive feedback and that they're about to leave or something. So maybe you don't want to pursue that opportunity, so you're going to focus your time somewhere else. Maybe they introduce you to someone else within the company or otherwise. So you creating the conversation are the opportunities. We're talking right now, let's say you have a business in 6 months and you want to have a coaching component in it. You might think of me and be like, hey, Anna, can you share, what you do for coaching? Maybe we can add your program to my business. So by talking with people, you figure out who they are, what they're about. And if something comes up down the line that's in a commonality, you now have a person that you can think of. But if you never talk to them, you've never had that opportunity.
I feel like people is just so afraid about the talking and the networking. What do you think that people is afraid?
Yeah, I mean, it's very normal to be afraid. First of all, a lot of people are taught to not talk to strangers because, and then they don't, which is fine, second of all, not every person is excited about meeting new people. The third thing is they may feel afraid of rejection. So, and many other things, but if you allow the voices in your head to control your actions, maybe you've been trained as a child, and this is a little more on the psychology side, maybe you didn't get the attention you wanted, and you think that reaching out and asking something multiple times is wrong or annoying, which is a common word a lot of people use, you would develop a fear of reaching out because you don't want to be branded as doing something wrong. Now, this is not wrong. It's a normal in the professional environment to follow up. People don't read their emails all the time. People lose messages. I literally saw a message that someone sent me in January of this year, and I didn't reply because I didn't see it. And I was reminded by someone about this person, and I sent her a message right now today. So you never know. Like, she just might have thought, oh, Anna didn't want to reply. I literally missed that message. So basically, it's really important to understand where your anxiety and fears are coming from and start to deal with them in whatever way you find, and just like overcome that and like do the actions. You can be dealing with your stuff, your emotional stuff, and doing the actions and still feeling anxious about it. That's okay. Find the right pace for you. Maybe contact 3 people this week, then 5 people next week. You can get into it as works for you. But most importantly, you want to take action, because if you don't take action, you're creating no opportunities, basically.
Yeah, and I love that, because I feel like a lot of what I have learned today is I just need to go out and do things, whatever it is. Yeah, like I could have started small, but it's how can I come out of my like little box that I thought that I cannot break, but is I just need to take a step and just do something. And I feel for networking, it's not that people who has networked for a while or forever, they've been good forever. They just been good because they've been practicing and they've been like going out and asking people. So I feel like
every single thing I learned and do now, that took me like 2 years to get to. And why? Because I really wanted to start my own business. So I teach everyone that what I've done for their own purposes, which is the job search. So basically, you can reframe anything you do in business into a job search, or doing freelance, or doing part-time, whatever it is. Everyone has like a thing that you're a goal. So if you want to achieve a goal, you build opportunities and then you funnel them down to the right ones. And then you go on from there. But you got to build momentum, and you can't build momentum with no action. So, you got to start somewhere.
Love it. Yes. And I feel like to finish up and thinking, well, no, I have another question before this, but to finish up exactly the topic is, we are all working remote. And I feel like, yeah, we are more used to right now what is remote and how to do it. But I feel like it's hard to get used to. And if tech is a new role for you, and there's a lot of like online collaboration and online remote work, and how do you and something else, like you don't just walk into people when you're going for a coffee or when you're getting to work. Yes, it's like you are not building those connections with your coworkers anymore. And I feel like this affects a lot in how a good teamwork could happen. Yes, like if I don't know anything about you, like how do I even communicate? If I, like, for example, you don't like to have video conferences or like video chat, you just want me to chat like Slack you first, and then we can have like an email, and then let's see if we need a conversation. So how do I build connections and with coworkers, with me working from home and then working from home?
You ask them what communication preferences they have. Once you know that, you can use that to either set up Zoom calls or Slack channel or whatever. What I did was proactively set up bi-weekly one-on-ones with my coworkers. And if they had to change it, they would change it. But because we were working at the same company, they had an incentive to meet with me, and I had an incentive to meet with them in order to share information on different projects and just catch up and like collaborate if we needed to. So at a very minimum, go ahead and book repeating one-on-one meetings every 2 weeks with your most frequent people that you chat with. These check-ins can give you the space to discuss things that are not project related, because maybe you have some things in common. You both love movies. You're not going to talk about movies for half an hour when you're talking about like design decisions. Maybe you both have concerns about the team progress or the timelines. Like, you got to have other spaces outside of your team meetings. So you want to take proactive action and do that.
And I think when I laugh about this is that even before, let's say, if I'm doing what you told me is like, I need to be more intentional and take action about networking, like that has already given me a lot of practice in connecting with people that I have never met before. So when I come to work, it's like, oh, okay, I imagine that is the same that as I was doing before. But now I feel like these relationships can last a little bit longer, are like more day to day as we work in projects together, or we are in the same team. So I feel like a lot of has to do with that intentionality and just go for it. Yes, I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I wanted to ask him, finishing up like this conversation about what you do. Yes, like you have told me a little bit of like how to do it for anyone. But if you will be working with a client, like what will be your approach? And yes.
So I run a program called the 12-Week Career Launch, and it's basically 3 to 4 month program where we work together to make sure that you get very clear on how to set up a job search that gets you interviews, get interview prep so that you move through the interviews and get offers. So whether you get an offer within 3 or 4 months or a little later, the point is you want to know how to build momentum. And like I said, cold applications is only 1/10 or like 10% of the process, but most of the process is creating connections, conversations, and opportunities with people so you can understand where to focus your time, what kind of roles to look for, etc. So basically, I provide one-on-one coaching and an online course, which takes you through the process of how do you network, what tools you use, how do you have conversations, how do you find jobs, how do you have a connection call? Like every single thing you could think of, I have in my course. And then I provide support throughout the week so that people can reach out and receive instant support on their networking questions, interview questions, finding jobs, whatever it is.
So let's say that I'm working with you and we've been like a month and a half into it, and I land a couple of interviews. Would you help me to kind of navigate how we'll approach for the interviews too?
Yeah, so interview prep and negotiation for the offer is included. So basically, the first step is the networking in order to gain the interviews. The second step is interview prep so that we could review how you present your story and your case studies. And then based on that, we can have mock interviews, kind of review information, help you prepare. I often review job descriptions and give you clients hints on like what to focus on. I make sure that they're telling their story in a succinct way and not falling too much into the details, and really focusing on their case studies first and foremost. And then once they do have offers, I help them negotiate to make sure that they get the best deal.
Love it. I feel like that's usually been the hardest part for me. I want to get everything. Yes. And I feel like when I get to that part, is like my checklist get smaller and smaller. So I feel like that's a good one, definitely for the next one. But okay, I'm going to put all your information here, but how they can find you.
So I'm on LinkedIn, which you'll share the link. And all the information about the program and me is at createnewpaths.com. And the program's called the 12-Week Career Launch. So they can find information about that and DM me on LinkedIn and we can chat.
Perfect. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for many goodies and insights for all of those who are looking for their first role. And for the viewers, if you are here next week, we're going to be talking about the same, but I'm going to have two Brazilian immigrants that moved to Canada and they landed their first job in tech. So I'm super excited about that. Everybody, great weekend. And Anna, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Take care.